Hey everyone, I'm Todd Wayne along with Ronnie Heelan. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Paranormal Podcast. Unfortunately, Ronnie's not going to be with us today, so it's just me and our guest, who is Maureen Grudzinski. Now, she's a psychic medium, a business owner. She was once a mayor. She's the owner of the podcast Dimensions of the Supernatural, co-creator, producer, casting director, and location director of the upcoming show Escape from the Paranormal. A lot more going on tonight, folks. So grab yourself a drink and a snack. Turn the lights off on the way back. Find yourself a nice comfy spot and enjoy this episode of Paranomaly. Stay with us, folks. All right, Maureen, your last name is Grudzinski, right?
It is.
Okay, and you're a psychic medium. You own a business.
I do.
You are the producer, director, location director of Escape the Paranormal, correct?
I am.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show. And do me a favor and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I think that says a lot already.
Okay.
I live in Pennsylvania with my husband and my daughter, Isabel. And we have many animals. They're all rescues except one. And it's like a zoo here all the time. That's pretty much what my life consists of for most of the time. However, like I said, I do run my business, and I really love what I do. It just kind of completes what I am for the most part on a daily basis. I did happen to get involved in this because I did get sick, and I really didn't want to sit around and kind of do nothing and waste my days away. So I had to think quick and figure out what I was going to do with myself. And because my senses were heightened with my illness, I did decide that I was going to use what a lot of people didn't know about me to kind of help other people.
So tell us, like, when did you first realize you had gifts growing up?
It's really strange because I did have gifts even when I was really little. And I do remember kind of the first moment that I remember having them. But throughout my life, I don't think I knew that I had them. I thought everyone had the same gifts, but I just thought that it was normal until I think I started to talk to people about what was going on around me a little bit more, probably more my parents than anything. My mom, she would kind of shush me because she didn't want to talk about it and she didn't want to know about it. She was kind of against it. She was Irish Catholic, of course, so she just didn't want to believe it. So I think I was probably about, and every time I noticed this, I've really paid attention to this. Anytime someone is asked this question, they say around 3 or 4 is when they remember their abilities, like the first time that they remember something happening. So I was around 4 years old when the very first thing I remember happening to me. But it wasn't just me. There was another being in the room that helped me because I electrocuted myself.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so you electrocuted yourself, and it was another being that was there with you?
Yes. So when I was young, I remember having these beings that would stand around my bed and kind of watch over me. And it's weird because I put a name to them. I called them the Watchers, which It kind of came out of my mouth when I was explaining this to someone else. And when I looked it up, because it shocked me that I gave a name to them, I looked up the Watchers. And if you look it up in the Bible, the Watchers are actually demons.
Wow.
That didn't make sense to me, because why would a little kid have demons standing around their bed?
Exactly.
As you know, children are innocent. Maybe I wasn't as innocent as I probably should have been. But if you look it up, that's what it says. But on the flip side of things, demons are not necessarily evil. They are supposed to be positive and negative, depending on the intentions that you use. For example, Pazuzu is the demon that is in The Exorcist. We all know and love it. Pazuzu's actually a demon of fertility. So if you use Pazuzu with good intentions or positive intentions, Pazuzu can actually be helpful. However, you don't want to go playing around with something that you don't know how to use. So in this case, I was really kind of freaked out about the fact that I used the Watchers. However, they don't look like demonic entities. And when this thing happened to me, the neighbors and my parents were all sitting on the front porch. It was summertime. I could remember every detail down to what I was wearing. They have a flat face. It's kind of plate-like. It's very porcelain looking. They had a bluish glow to them, kind of like the glow bugs that we had as kids. And they had 2 dots for noses with like no topographical bumps, just 2 dots, a small line for a mouth. They don't talk out of them. And I don't think they eat with them. However, I've never seen them use their mouth. Big, huge, comma-like eyes, and they're kind of watery. They kind of, whatever's inside of them, this liquidy thing moves, and they are cobalt blue. They wear cloaks, and they have huge wings. And I kind of have this theory that they're alienish type angels.
I was just going to ask that.
I think that angels are actually also aliens. It's people have I think that it's a crazy idea sometimes, but people have said that they've also heard this theory. So I'm going with what I've seen, and I'm not going to push the idea on anyone.
Sure.
But this thing that happened, it was getting a little bit dark. I was going to kind of curl up in bed. I had this little goldfish nightlight, and I went to plug it in, and the one prong was not going in. And when I went to plug it in, I had my thumb on the other prong. This thing, I can't say he or she because they don't have a gender. And I can't even say like he or she because it didn't feel like a gender to me. It was just gender neutral. It put its hand on my shoulder, and I heard in my head, everything's going to be okay, which is really weird because my mom came to visit me after she passed away, and she said the same thing to me.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a huge like circle of things that have transpired over time, and they kind of all, they're synchronicities. And when I plugged it in, my mom saw me after the fact. I had a black singe mark, and it went really deep. It didn't hurt when it happened. It hurt a little bit after the fact, but I didn't feel it. I didn't I didn't get thrown across the room or anything. It just kind of, it fell out of my hand. This thing stayed with me. I walked outside, and my mom, was screaming, and just like moms do, she's asking me, what did I do? She's screaming to the neighbors, and it didn't hurt. It didn't do anything. And I've had several times where these things were with me when things have happened and I should be dead.
That's so interesting because I've heard people talk to me about basically what you was describing at first when I thought alien beings right away. And I hear a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me that's very interesting. Now
Yeah, I've had several times where alien type things have come to visit, and they don't look like that. There are several other types. They're not angry. I've never had a violent type visitation, and that they all look slightly different.
So do you? Okay, so you researched into it, the Watchers,
Always.
correct? That's
Yes.
what. Okay, and found out that these are demons.
That's what that's called in the Bible. And that's what came to mind when I was telling someone the story, and I said, these things stand around my bed. They're called, and, I would call them, and I said the Watchers. And I was shocked to hear that come out of my mouth because I'd never really told anyone the story before. So when I have something that I talk about, it's kind of almost when I do a reading for someone or I talk about something and something flows out of my mouth like that, it's kind of like it comes from out of my head, right out of my mouth without thinking. I'll look it up if I don't understand it, or if it's something that seems like critical to what I'm going through, or if there's a change, or if there's an awakening, or something's happening that's different, or it seems to make sense that I don't know about. So I will absolutely look it up and see why.
Yeah, and that's I've heard of people saying that they've heard these seekers and seers. Mm-hmm. I've heard of those, but I've never heard of the Watchers. So that's very interesting. Now, when you was electrocuted and you seen these beings, you didn't have like an out of body experience, did you? Because you were saying that your mom was yelling, and was this something that you was like out of body, like almost like you died?
No, I didn't have an out of body experience at that time. I've done astral projection on my own, where I've actually just attempted it on my own, and I've actually had near-death experiences, and I've actually had 2 times where I've left my body. One was when I was extremely sick, and I was at home. And the other time was I was in a hospital. I was having a kidney biopsy, and I flatlined due to anesthesia.
So, okay, so that was your out of body experience, correct?
Well, I've done an astral projection, so I've actually literally tried to do an astral projection. I've made sure that I've exited my body. I've turned around. I've watched myself from outside of my body. I've put my feet on the floor. I've walked around, and I put myself back in my body. I've done, I had near-death experiences where I've literally, been in car accidents and felt myself kind of on the edge, walking on the edge. And then I did actually walk through the tunnel, and I had hands trying to reach out to grab me, and I had family members waiting at the end talking about taking me with them. And I was told that it wasn't my time yet by one of them, and I kind of got sucked backwards. And then the last time I flatlined, and I was in a very dark black room with kind of like black sable fur. And it was the best nap I've ever taken in my life, and I didn't want to go back.
That's awesome. Well,
it was amazing.
I mean, it's not awesome that happened to you, because you could have died.
Mm-hmm. I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of what's to come. I'm not afraid of leaving this world. I'm not afraid of, I've seen two different ways that could possibly be my exit. I think the second time was probably more of what's going to happen, because I really do feel that you get a couple of attempts, but I think that I've made so many changes, and I've kind of completed the cycle here where you kind of learn your lessons. And I think that maybe that was my way of saying to myself that, you've kind of completed the cycle, and that's the way you're going to go, and you're not having to come back.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, do you think, is there a difference between astral projection and out of body experiences? I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking.
I'm not really sure myself. I think that astral projection, I kind of think that is when you control it yourself, whereas an out of body experience, you kind of don't have control over it. I don't know, but I guess it could be the same thing.
Now, with astral projection, I'm just asking questions. Is it possible, because you're going into a different realm, so to speak, is it possible to get stuck there?
Yes. I actually have a friend who was dreaming and got stuck and was having trouble coming back. And in his dream, he was told that if he wasn't coming back, that he was going to be stuck in a coma and he was not going to be released back.
Wow.
He was having a really, really difficult time getting back to his body.
That is interesting. So, yeah, I mean, you can definitely get stuck, I'd imagine. And I'm thinking, like, if you astral project and you die, you would die, I guess.
I mean, I guess that's a very great possibility. I know. I've never attempted it, but
and I'm just fascinated with astral projection because a lot of people, I've talked to, and some could not get it. They couldn't do it. They wanted to, but couldn't. And then I talked to you, who has actually did this.
It's difficult. I mean, it's really tough to kind of get back into your body. You kind of have that like jump feeling when you're sleeping and you jump, you feel that jump. I truly believe that that's when you're astral projecting while you're sleeping.
That part, like when you're going into REM sleep, when your body kind of jumps. Yeah.
So I think that it's a great possibility that you can almost like give yourself a heart attack because it's a scare factor of kind of setting yourself back into your body. When I did it, I had that feeling, and I literally like almost jumped back out of my body.
Wow.
It's a really strange feeling. It's, I'm kind of afraid of falling. So that feeling is that same feeling as like kind of falling off a building.
Yes.
So it's a weird, odd thing.
Very interesting. So now you do psychic readings, right? Or are you a medium? A psychic or a medium?
I am both.
Okay.
So a psychic actually reads the person that is sitting in front of them, and a medium connects to the other side. So they're reading the people who have already passed over.
So that would be like if I would ask you about a past relative, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the psychic one is about me.
Yes.
Okay. So that would be like astrology too, right?
I don't really deal with astrology very much. I do numerology a little bit more. I've never really gotten into the astrology aspect of of things that much. Although it's not that I don't believe in it. It's just that it's really super complex, and I'm a little ADD, so I can't really pay attention that well to it. And there's a lot to memorize, and whomever does do that, I give them a lot of credit because there's so much to it, and it's really interesting.
Well, sure. That's being complex, that, and you with memorizing everything, and then you have to interpret it. Whew, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And things have changed a lot. There are there's a supposedly a 13th sign that has kind of gone away, but some people still use it. And depending on when you were born, there's 5 days that are considered to be a cusp. So were you born in the cusp? Are you that sign or the other sign? Or is it a combination of the two? I mean, a lot of people do really get into that. And I do believe, and I was just talking to someone else about this. People ask about the full moon. Is it bunk or is it truth if the full moon actually changes a person? And I fully, wholeheartedly do believe that, because if there is a full moon and you watch the ocean, the planet is made up of 75 to 80% of water, and you can't deny that if you look at it from space. So high tide, low tide, the way the ocean moves, it's all based on, the full moon or the moon and how it changes. Think of a person, we're made up of like 90% water, including our brains. If the moon does what it does to oceans or water, and we're made up of more water than the oceans, what is the moon going to do to us, especially if our brains are 90% water? I mean, it must be crazy.
Yes.
Which is why we call the moon Luna and lunatics, and we're all lunatics.
That's true. But you know what? The moon cycle, I do believe in the moon cycle, because when I was young, I don't know more, but when I was young, I was a hunter. And you follow those moon patterns and cycles, and it shows you specifically when deer are moving, when they're not moving. The same with fishing. Fishing's the same way. A lot of people use a moon guide with that, and they check the barometric pressures, and you can tell where the fish are in the water. It's very fascinating. So yes, the moon does do something, on that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Percent.
It's very, I don't know much about it, but I do know that those moon cycles for animals, from what I understand and how it worked for me, actually worked.
I don't know anything about fishing or hunting, but I'll agree with you on that, just because I know it does things with other things.
Yes. And that's interesting. Now, as far as clients that you get, what is the most, let's see, what do people ask you the most for?
Everybody asks about love. Everybody. They all want to know if they're going to meet the right person or if they're with the right person. I kind of dissuade that, just because of the fact that I let the spirit guides answer their questions. And I think the spirit guides have always their best intentions at heart when they're answering anything. So I usually ask the spirit guides to tell me what they need to know right now, because that's going to answer a lot of different things, and that will truly guide them to what they need to know with everything. So that will kind of answer a lot of different questions. If it answers about their home life, that will tell them about who they're going to be living with. If it tells them about their career, it may answer something about, if they're going to meet someone at their job. So I'll answer generally what they need to know right now. And then once I get that answer, they can ask further questions a little bit more in depth.
Sure, because that's not, you're getting the information, and you can't prove that that's, what's going to happen. That is their path, correct?
Correct. So I try to tell them a little bit about themselves right now so they understand that this is validation. And then I'll listen for, I kind of bring in a little bit of mediumship with whatever I'm getting from the tarot cards that I'm pulling. I typically do, people ask for tarot card readings mostly, but I do bring in some mediumship with it because it's very difficult to read what they're giving off without pulling in whatever I'm hearing also, because someone's usually screaming at me to give them messages. So I'll tell them if I hear names or if I hear dates or if I hear, something about anniversaries or birthdays or dogs' names or, whatever's coming through at that moment. So it's kind of interesting how things play out when I do readings. They've all come out very different. It's never the same thing. I've gone to get my windshield replaced and I've seen a German Shepherd kind of curled in a ball in the garage. And it turned out that I originally thought that it was it was so clear. I thought it was a neighboring dog. And it turned out it was the guy that I was talking to. It was his dog that had passed away. And we were talking about his dad who had cancer. And it turned out the dog also had cancer and passed away. So it was a message to tell him that his dad was fine for now, but he was going to be passing soon. But to hold on to the time that he had with him, because every moment that you have is precious, and to not, have his dad just sitting around in a chair, but to give him the time to function properly while he could, because, we should be able to get up and live life, not just have them sit in bed if he could still function. And there was someone who was taking care of him and was just wheeling him around in a wheelchair. He wanted to go to the casino and, have a little bit of fun. So I was telling him about that. I had someone else go to a house party that I was doing, and she walked in the room, and the moment she saw me, she burst into tears and she said, "Please tell me about my dog." And I said, "I'll do my best, whatever." And I put the cards out, and as soon as she said that to me, I said, "What does Cookie mean?" And she said, "That's my dog." I said, "Your dog's name is Cookie?" And she said, "No, it's Hamburger." And I said, "Okay, so I'm really confused right now." And she said, "Okay, so with most people, they'll say to their dog, 'Do you want a cookie?' And I would take the dog for hamburgers, but I would call them cookies. So that's the dog coming through." So I was totally baffled by that, but that's the way it works out. So sometimes I'll hear something that I don't understand, but once I tell the person what I'm hearing, they understand it. So it's a message for them, but I have to kind of tell them about what I'm hearing first for them to understand it.
Yeah, very interesting. Now, what's the difference between tarot cards and oracle cards?
So tarot cards are there, it's a pack of 72 cards, and they're kind of, I think they're kind of on the archaic side because they excuse me, they have been around for a very long time, and they typically have only 2 to 3 meanings, and they can be upward or reversed. They look a little scary sometimes. They can be a little bit morbid, or people can be a little scared of them. You see the devil or you see the tower and you immediately think that you're going to hell in a handbasket. But
Right.
I mean, I think that people immediately get a certain answer from them just by looking at them, and it can be a little scary for them. Oracle cards, they're all about love and light, and people have a perception of those as well. And they already usually have the answers on the cards, which I kind of don't like those either, because you're just reading off the cards. I have these great cards that I love to use, and they're called the Psychic Tarot Oracle deck. They do have one word at the bottom of each, and they have numbers at the top of each. I don't look at either of those. When I pull cards, I listen for a number, and that's the amount of cards I pull. And then I connect to the person. And then I'll look inside the card in the middle of it with the picture. And I look with my intuition to see what I see first in the picture. And weirdly enough, so say there's one card and it says like decision making. So there's several hands, and there's a boat dock that comes off of it with the hands at the end. And then there's a person sitting at the end of the dock by themselves. Every single hand has a different hand gesture. And then there's two birds flying away from it. I went to a house party that I did last weekend, and there were 6 girls. They were all very different in personalities. I actually made the comment that I wasn't sure how they all got along so well because they were all so different. Every single one of them got that same card. And it's very weird because there are how many cards in this? 65 cards in this deck. And I think one of the girls didn't get the card, but this card meant something different for every single one of them. One of the girls, I saw the birds first, and I said, why are you flying away from making a decision? It's like you don't want to make the decision, but you have to, and there are so many decisions to make. And she said, how would you even know that? And I said, because this is what I saw. So she said, we do have a lot of decisions to make. I just got married. We have to move. We have to do this. We just got a puppy. We have whatever going on. We were talking about children. So it was spot on. Another girl, I said, why are you this person sitting on the dock by yourself? And you're telling me that you don't want to make a decision, you're never going to make a decision, and you don't have to make a decision. It was like she was pouting and she had her arms crossed. And she said, because that's who I am. I'm not making the decision and I don't have to. It was really strange. Like, it's just weird how it comes out. And sometimes I'll hear 4 cards. Sometimes I'll hear 5 cards. Sometimes I'll hear no cards. And then it makes me have to sit with the person and talk to them first because a wall is up. So everything I get is coming from my intuition or my spirit guides or whatever it is telling me what I need to do.
Wow.
I know, it's kind of mind blowing.
It is, yes. Wow. So now you take your psychic medium abilities and you decide to open up for other people by creating a store, right? A business.
Yeah. It's sometimes I go to places where, like, if there's a vendor event, sometimes I'll do a vendor event as well. So yeah, I mean, sometimes it can be a store as well.
Well, now what's the name of your store?
It's called A Lil Witchy.
And tell us about your store.
So I started this, and I originally started with a partner, and that didn't work out. And I wasn't sure of a name. So I was kind of walking through my house and I was talking to myself. And I'm not really great at giving things names. It's just not something I'm good at. So I was kind of thinking, okay, so what do and I was tossing names around, and it just wasn't working. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I'm not this and I'm not that. All I know is that I'm a little witchy. And my husband said, well, then that's what you're going to go with, because you are a little witchy. I'm not a lot witchy. I'm just a little witchy. So I started with that. And while I also was out of work, we had a problem in our town. There was a problem with our police department disbanding. And a lot of us felt like we didn't need an entire police department. We didn't have any violent crime ever. We didn't have major issues. And we had our state police department, who is awesome. And they drive past our town and they kind of stop in often, and they're on call. So they can come in here whenever we need them. They're very close by. So the previous mayor and her council, they wanted to regionalize our police department, meaning that there would be several towns or boroughs or townships or whatever. They would all get together and they would make a major police force. It was going to be very, very costly. We were going to have our taxes raised by 90%. We do have what most places call an affluent development. However, we do have doctors and attorneys and accountants and different people who live here. However, what they failed to notice is that this development was started with mostly blue collar workers, and it blew up, and we now have 1,600 some people living here. That would have literally destroyed most of the people who live here, because they have been here since 1968 is when the town started. Now they're elderly people, they're disabled people, they're people who are taking care of their grandchildren, or they're newer people who are just starting out, or they're raising their first child. The council that was seeking to take over, they decided that they were going to run on a ticket with the thought of indicating that they were not going to allow regionalization and they were going to stop it from happening. They asked me to be mayor.
Nice.
I decided that I was going to do that. I was completely against what they were trying to do, because I thought there are a lot of people here who cannot afford this, and it will make them bankrupt. They will lose their homes, everything that they've worked so hard for. So I decided that this was going to be my new mission on top of doing what I was doing. I became mayor, and because of that, it also afforded me the opportunity to officiate weddings, which I love to do. So this is also part of my business.
Awesome.
And after everything that happened being mayor and all of the press, media, newspapers, everything that happened, we did stop it, by the way. It was a lot to take, and my health was declining quickly. There was also a problem with Halloween. So I had a problem with people from not only my town, but outside towns, pulling into the limelight that I was a witch. So I decided that I wasn't going to run again. Even though I didn't run, I can still perform marriages. And I love that part of what I do. It's kind of, and I compare it to working for Disney. No one is ever unhappy on their wedding day. So I never get yelled at. I'm always happy. Everyone else is always happy. And we have an amazing day. And I get to go home. So it's just awesome. I travel. I get to see new people. I get to bond with these people. I have done baby blessings for some of these people after they have children, after they've gotten married. I've done same-sex marriages. I really, really love this part of what I do.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's wonderful. I love it.
So now you cleaned up your town then.
I did. I helped with, I've planted trees. I've dedicated trees there were 3 young boys who died in a house fire. We were trying to start a community garden, and that was squashed, unfortunately. We stopped the regionalization. we did a vendor event that raised a lot of money for the volunteer fire department. I was the cook. I flipped burgers and hot dogs in the rain.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, that was actually really fun. I got to meet a lot of residents, and I had a lot of support. It was really a lot of fun, but it also was a lot of work at the same time. But I got to walk with the kids and go trick-or-treating. There were a lot of really high points to what I did, and I don't regret it at all.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like, you've had a very fulfilling life so far.
I have. I really have.
So now you're no stranger to paranormal stuff, correct?
Absolutely not. I've seen everything since I was a little kid.
That's right. Now, do you have a paranormal team?
I work with Anthony Simonelli. He has Seekers Club of the Paranormal, and I have done investigations with him. So he actually has the team. I've actually investigated on my own for a long time, and with my husband and our kids.
Nice. Now you have a podcast as well, right?
I do, with Anthony Simonelli. It's called Dimensions of the Supernatural. The first 5 episodes I did on my own, and then I asked him to join me as a special guest, and he never left.
So he became your co-host.
He did.
Nice.
I love him. He is like my big brother, and I would never want to do it without him.
Nice. That's awesome. And what do you guys talk about?
Everything. We've had my very first episode was actually one of my recent brides. She is an archaeologist, Molly, and we talked about Are Vampires Real? We have had people from Scotty Davis to Patty Negri to Johnny Zaffis, Michelle Roos. We had Austin Maynard recently. We talk about everything. And we have our regulars are Ron Iacovetti and Lourdes Gonzalez. They bring their Staticom to light. We played a Christmas game last year. Who's naughty and who's nice? We like to have fun. It's a really fun show. We had the paranormal couple, Cody and Satori.
Yeah.
We have amazing guests, and it doesn't matter if they're from a local paranormal society or if they are, on major TV shows. We've had fantastic guests. We have a lot of fun. We talk about everything and anything. It's usually a 2-hour show. Sometimes it's gone on for 4 hours. It just depends on what we're doing and who we're talking to at the moment and what we have going on afterwards. But we have been well supported. We have some great listeners and watchers, and our comment section is fantastic. The same people come and watch us. We've had new people recently. We have our viewers that have come in to watch, our guests, and it's been fantastic. Our year just came up on October 19th, so we made it a year, and we really love what we do.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
It is.
And now you have also, because of your paranormal endeavors, you have been on some pretty big shows, correct?
I have been a reenactor for Nick Groff's Deathwalker. It has been fascinating. It is exciting. It's unbelievable to watch, and they are super fantastic people to work with. Everyone is super professional. They are awesome. Nick is one of the kindest, nicest people I've ever met. Dan is wonderful. Justin is so professional, and they really know what they're doing. The people in like costume and wardrobe and makeup. They're wonderful. They're the best people ever.
Yeah, I hear a lot of great things about Nick and the people he's associated with.
Yeah, they're wonderful people. I wish I could do it every weekend. It's just so much fun. I've
It,
done four episodes with them.
nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I hope to go back and work with them again. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and see, I'd love to talk to Nick. I have some big things that I'm working on for next year's uh, shows. So,
That's great.
but I mean, if you ever get a chance to talk to someone like Brandon Elvis, they have a new show out right now. It's Haunted Discoveries, and
Mhm.
it's really good. So if you ever get a chance to talk to him, it's awesome.
Well,
Uh,
he actually asked me for some stories, so I sent him some information, and um, I don't know if he's going to use any of it for background or whatever, but he was a sweetheart to
cool,
message with.
very good. Now tell us about Escape from the Paranormal.
Oh, Escape from the Paranormal. So this was it started December of last year, and um, I was working with Alfred MacArthur, or Alfie, as I call him. He's in Scotland, and Alfie is a professional boxer. He was also in the military. He was a chef. He's kind of like me. He has his hands in everything, but he is hilarious. He's professional. He's one of the most kind-hearted people I've ever known. Um, he has done things on his own, and he started with running scared. It's a I don't know if it's a show or I don't know if you'd call it a movie about people who are trying to break free from a haunted location. So he started with that, and then he did Escape UK. Um, he was military, so he was going to rescue a celebrity from 14 special forces members. And he did that, and that was on pay-per-view on Fight TV. Then he did Running Scared 2. So now we're going to go back and work on this. We started it with other people, and it kind of fell apart because everyone has their hands in something, but the personalities just didn't work together. However, we just kept coming back together again. And we both like the way the other is constantly working, and we check in with each other. It's hard because he's in Scotland, but um, we do work together on WhatsApp. We phone call each other, we video each other, and we're very driven people. Um, it's going to be two teams, and they are going to be paired up with their competitor. We are going to do a walkthrough in a haunted location. I'm going to be the psychic medium, and we are going to have the place walked through with everyone on the team, even the cast and crew. And once that's done, the two teams are going to do a competition with two challenges. And whomever the loser is, they have to go into the haunted location for 24 hours and try to escape.
Oh, wow.
And some of these locations are the most haunted places that I've ever been in. So if I'm saying that, it's definitely going to be good. And we are looking for celebrities. We are going to have, sports figures, whatever. And the challenges are going to be great. They're going to be obstacle courses, singing, cooking, whatever. And we are going to pick some crazy things for them to do.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And I love the paranormal, and I love seeing people who are skeptics especially, go into places like this and see, what they find and how they explain it and how they come out of it the opposite side. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. And he's very into the same thing. We love to see people try to explain away what's actually there. So we're going to have the rooms monitored on a regular basis. We're going to have a camera in every room, and we're going to watch them try to get out. It's going to be more of like an escape room or riddle type thing. So we're going to see people under pressure and see if they can focus for the time that they're going to be in there while they're scared. It's more psychological.
Wow. So
Yeah.
who thought of this?
Well, obviously, because it's called Escape from the Paranormal, and there was Escape UK, and Escape, you know, running scared. It's more based off of what he had a concept for to begin with, but we co-created it because we both kept bouncing ideas off of each other so what do you think if we added this to the original idea, or if we changed this slightly, or what if we added a little bit of this? So because it's more paranormal, the paranormal things were kind of coming from me, or I would put a twist to something, or he'd add a little bit of something. He's more about the competition part of it, and I'm more about the paranormal part of it, because I want to see, I have a lot of theories in my head of, where spirits are when they cross over or change over or move or, whatever, because I've always thought that, just like science, when we take a science class, it's explained to us that if you move a desk, there's still matter left behind. And I always tell people that I have a large personality and I like to have fun. So if I'm at a party and I pass away and you move me out of that room, my energy is going to be left behind. So if you pass away and you are, buried or cremated or whatever, and we've obviously had a lot of people say that there are spirits. So if there's a non-believer, and we have millions of people who do believe, and they're all over the world, and they're saying that they see the same types of things, and they don't speak to each other, or they haven't had a way to speak to each other. Why are they all seeing the same thing? So there's obviously something there. So we're trying to prove, what is there? Where is it going? Is it in another dimension? Is it a vortex? Is there a time loop? Is it, what is it? So we're trying to figure out and explain what is happening.
And that's not going to be a very easy thing to do,
No,
because the paranormal it's not proven, and it's a very it's based on a belief system.
mm-hmm.
So that,
But
you're going to have, go ahead.
So we're trying to figure out a way to prove that. And I think a lot of people are getting closer and closer and closer.
I believe that. I believe that it's, this field, and how it is too. It does good for the longest time, and then it drops. And
mm-hmm.
then there's a lot of infighting and things like that. And then that'll kind of calm down, and then it goes back to what it should be again. And I keep seeing more and more experiments, and they're using more data. And that to me is very impressive. I like what I'm seeing.
I agree. I think that, first of all, the infighting is a problem. I think that, there has to be a way to fix that. I think that people are ripping each other apart, first of all, for no reason. I mean, we all have our thing. And say two people are doing a TV show, everyone's doing it in different ways, or there's something different about it. It shouldn't come down to someone tearing another person's throat out. If you're climbing each other's backs for fame, why are you doing it for fame? If you can't get fame on your own, then maybe it's not what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Or work That's work on a different thing to get your fame. Like, I'm not doing this for fame. I really want to prove what is on the other side, or how you get to the other side, or what the other side is. I want to be successful at that. That's all I'm looking for, because I've been there. I just want to know where I was. That's it. That's all I want to do. Um, and if I'm doing something, I just want the credit for it. That's all.
Yes.
And I think that that's what everybody should be looking forward to.
It is, but you see too many people that want the likes, the followers, the ratings, the how do we get it? We fake evidence. Everything's demonic. Everything's evil, because that's what sells.
If that's what they're looking, I mean, there's very rarely a demonic presence.
Exactly.
Rarely. It's usually something that's ornery, that's been here for too long, and it's pissed off. Sorry if I'm not allowed to say
okay.
that. It just doesn't want to be here anymore. How would you feel if you were 400 years old and you're still here, stuck in the same place, and you have no one left?
Right.
I wouldn't want to be here. My grandmother died at 103. She had no husband. Her children were fighting over her property already. Everyone was angry. Like, I wouldn't ever want to be stuck in a place like that.
Yes. And, be a ghost and be at Waverly or something. Everyone's going to come in and ask you about if you had tuberculosis. Are you alive? Are you dead?
Right. I want people to ask me, what kind of music did I like? What did I eat for dinner? Who was my first kiss? Those are the questions that are really interesting.
Yes, I agree.
Start thinking, like, ask better questions, ask interesting things. Don't be asking the same boring things. I don't want to talk about my illnesses.
Exactly.
It brings back bad memories.
And I think that's what we're stuck with because of certain TV programs.
I know.
and it's a shame, because it really, you have to think outside the box. You got to do your research. I don't see people researching anymore. I just see them going by word of mouth that, this happened, this happened, this happened. And I think what's going on is a lot of people are creating thought forms, and that is really wreaking havoc on what is actually at that location.
Yeah, egregores and tulpas are not the best thing to have, because then you're just creating more of what's either not there or more of what's there. And that could be a problem. PK manifestations, poltergeists, tulpas, egregores, that's not what you want to have in a place. I mean, there may be something there that you couldn't control because of hormones or anger or depression or, age. Like, teenage girls, they do that on their own. That's just going to happen naturally. But if if you get enough people to think of something that's going to be there, it's going to be there. Yes. You can get rid of it, but then that's the other problem. People are not helping to give closure to spirits that are stuck.
Yes, that is.
I'm finding 100%. That a huge problem.
Yes, I as well. I agree with you 100%. I wish people would get back to the absolutes of, we know this person died here. Let's see if we can communicate by asking not questions are you dead or or something like that, but are you, what's your favorite, song? And if someone's like, you can validate by that just by a song if you can get it, because it's going to give you the period of the music. Right.
And spirits are still going to show up if you cross them over, because they still visit just as often as if they were stuck here. They still have places that they really love and that they care for, and that they're going to stop back and visit often, just like they'll visit people.
Yes. And I think that, I'm with you on all of that. I think there needs to be, I don't want to say a standard way
No,
of
there should be standard.
Well,
there should be a higher standard.
There should be, there should be something, because it's really, every person tries to do the paranormal in their own way, but it's actually the same way, just hashed over and over and over. And, people they don't know about thought forms and different things like that. So they're flying blind.
Well, that's the problem. They're flying blind because they're not researching. Like you said, I don't research the places I go to because I want to read them blind. I research the paranormal and how you're supposed to handle things. Like, I just researched recently something that a lot of people may not know. So one of my diagnoses, it's kind of on the rarer side, I guess. I have extra collagen. So I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos with cardiac involvement. So I have extra collagen, so I'm extra bendy. And collagen becomes a semiconductor. Because of that, I'm extra staticky all the time. And that can help to produce spirits. But it also makes it really difficult when somebody wants to touch me because everyone gets shocked. I'm very shocking. I also tend to blow light bulbs if I'm angry. And I noticed this and I didn't realize what it was, because as a kid, I would be driving in a car with my parents and I would count the lights that would go out driving down highways or down the street. When we would drive under them, the lights would go out.
Oh.
I thought it was normal, and I thought that the lights would stay lit for people because the light bulbs were saving themselves energy, and they would only stay lit until people would drive under them, which is actually a brilliant idea, but that's not what was happening. I would drive under them and then they would go out. If I get angry, the light bulbs start to flicker, and I notice it all the time now. And it's not just when I'm angry, it's when I'm nervous, it's when I'm anxious, it's when things are happening around me that are like making me excited. I've even had a fire happen. So it's the extra collagen. And I just found this out and I started to research it. Collagen is a semiconductor.
Ah, okay.
So people don't know this, but they never would have known it, because unless you have my disorder and you would be interested enough in that. We talked about this with Austin Maynard the other night. And he makes ghost boxes and he's, interested in these things. So we talked about it on the show, and it is super interesting because that might be why they're really drawn to me, besides the fact that maybe I'm a beacon because they can come and talk to me.
Yes. And that is a good point, because, it's like crystals. Some people they'll get crystals and they think that this is what they're doing with them, a protection or whatnot. But a crystal, even in grams, would be like a pill. Okay, so this one is smaller, so it's gonna protect that little bit. This one is great big, and this one's going to be, you know what I mean? It's going to be used for different things. So what you're saying is very much, that's, I think what's fascinating about it is you being yourself are figuring out all these things that your body can do. And a lot of people don't take the time to even think about something like that. Imagine driving under the lights and
Mhm.
they're going out. People don't think about it. I surely would have never thought about anything like that until you just mentioned it.
Well, I think I'm extra observant because I I have, a higher intuition, but I'm also observant because I have ADD. So I'm always looking around and, noticing.
Yes,
On
you.
top of that, I'm very my mother used to call me curiouser and curiouser because I'd say, why, when, how, where, what? And that
Yes.
would drive her crazy. But I do research and I go down the rabbit hole. If you put Pinterest in front of me, you'll never see me again because I love to research. I'm like the research queen. If you tell me something about the paranormal and there's something interesting about it, I will research it until I can't research anymore. And that's what I love about this, especially if it has something to do with my 8,000 rare diseases that I have, because I love the medical world too. I'm also a physical medium. So if someone's in front of me and I'm reading them, I do Reiki also. So if I'm reading them, I will figure out exactly what's wrong with them, but I'm feeling what they're feeling. I can feel how someone passed away. I can feel what's wrong with someone. I can tell someone if they're sick or where they have something wrong in their body, which makes it even more interesting. And I think that that's probably why I became ill, because I'm here to heal people. I'm here to help them figure out, what's wrong with them or what they need more of, or what they, how they passed away, or, maybe to get that closure. I'm here to help people who lost loved ones.
So the like you have, what do you think that you have gotten these different illnesses? Now you had said that. Do you think that was by design, possibly?
I do. I mean, I think that we all choose what we're coming into this world with or for. We choose our names, we choose you know, our illnesses, we choose our bodies, we choose our parents, we choose everything. We choose everything coming in, and including, what we need to learn. We choose all of it. I think there is a reason for this, because one of the things that is wrong with me, it's fairly, they say it's rare. It's not rare. It's rare because people have not been diagnosed with it yet. And it could kill people. There are people that are walking by me on a regular basis and I'll see something weird about them and I'll say, have you ever been tested for blah, blah, blah? And they're like, no. And I'll say, you should get tested. My husband, my son, my daughter, they all have it and didn't know it.
Wow.
That's a lot of people in one family.
So
And it can be hereditary. So I think that that's a big problem, when these doctors are saying, oh, it's super rare. I was told you can't have that. They tested me for it. It's exactly what I had. I diagnosed myself and they just did the testing to figure it out.
yes, and with the with these different things that you are aware of, do you, because you just mentioned about you'll see somebody and you'll see something about that person.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do this anytime with anything? Like you could walk down the street and you see somebody and be like, hey, there's something wants me to talk to this person.
You know, those are like the things that I was just talking about. Those are physical things. But yeah, it's weird because I'll notice someone like out of the blue and I'll notice that there's something different about them. And usually I'll end up talking to them because I keep getting pulled to them, or I'll hear something over and over. Like the way I met Ron Yacovetti was I was at Gettysburg Battlefield Bash and I kept hearing a name over and over. And because I wasn't going to him, then it started screaming at me. And I had walked up to him and I said, I just wanted to let you know that your speaking engagement was fabulous and it was so heartwarming. I just wanted to let you know. And I was so taken aback by it. and he was speaking with Chris DeCesare also. I said, you both were just amazing. And he said, thank you so much. And I said, something was pulling me towards you before I leave for the day. I have to ask you, is the name Maggie, does it mean anything to you? And his jaw hit the floor, and he turned and he looked. This is how I met Anthony Simonelli also. And he turned and he looked at Anthony Simonelli, and he grabbed him by the arm and he pulled him over, almost knocked him over. And he said, you're not going to believe this. And Anthony said, what? And he said, she just said something to me, and you're not going to believe this. She said she needed to say something to me before she left. She asked me if the name Maggie meant anything, and Anthony's jaw hit the floor. And he said, oh my God, do you know who that is? And I said, well, no, that's why I'm asking you. And he said, the Fox sisters. Do you know who the Fox sisters are? And I said, do I know who the Fox sisters are? None of us would be here if I didn't know who the Fox sisters are. And he said, well, we are working on something with the Fox sisters. That's Margaret Maggie Fox. And I said, oh my God. And he said, we were just talking about them. And I said, well, I've been bothered since last night. This name Maggie's been screamed in my head. So that's why I was being drawn to them. And then that's how I connected with Anthony. And that's how we're still together.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was so loud in my head, I couldn't concentrate. I was starting to get a migraine. It was so loud. As soon as I said the name to him, it stopped. It's the same thing with anything physical. A guy had a pinched nerve in his shoulder, and my whole arm went cold and numb. I couldn't move my arm. And I said, why? And he was on the phone. I wasn't talking to him like face to face. And I said, my left arm went completely numb. Do you have a disability that's not allowing you to move your left arm? And I heard his wife go, oh my God, how'd she know that? And I said, am I right? And he said, how would you know that? And I said, well, because my left arm is completely numb and freezing cold. So I'm assuming that yours is the same way.
Oh, wow.
And he said, holy crap, lady, how do you know that? And I said, because I'm sitting here. Can you please just tell me, because I can't stand it anymore. I need to move my arm. And he said, yeah, I drive a truck. And when I went to I think he was changing the tire. I don't know, something happened. He said, it shifted my shoulder out of place, and now I have a pinched nerve. As soon as he said that, my arm came back and the color changed.
Wow.
It's really weird. And it's not like immediate. It's sometimes when I walk past people, I'll feel like it's not like Long Island medium where I'm like licking my lips.
Right.
It's weird. It's just, usually when I'm doing a reading for someone, or someone is very sick and they need to know.
Well,
Like super sick, like if they have cancer and they don't know it yet. And and I'm not going to say, oh, hey, can I read for you for a second because you have cancer? I don't tell them what is wrong with them. I'll say, have you been to a doctor recently? Because I'm not a doctor. And I'm not saying that mediums or psychics are 100%. I'm saying that, I want people to be safe and I want them to be checked out. I'll say, I'm feeling something in your chest, or do you have chest pains, or do you have something that leads through your neck down your shoulder, or, something that will force them to be checked out by their doctor. We're not always 100%. I would be full of crap if I said that I was 100% all the time. There's no way that could be right.
No, it's your intuition, correct?
It's my intuition, but I'm thinking it has something to do with the energy, with the staticky energy. And I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's because when I run my hand over the top of their head to feel like their basic energy, I feel like their baseline, and then I run my hand down over them, and then I feel a change wherever they have a problem. And then I'll hear something about whatever it is. And more often than not, if I hear cancer or heart attack, or I'll feel a pulling in my own chest, and then I'll say, like, I feel something from heart to lungs, and the heart and the lungs are connected. And then I'll feel like I'm drowning and I'm like trying to get my breath through a straw. And I'll say, like, did your family member have their lungs filled with fluid? And they'll be like, yes. And I'll feel like a wet humidity, like if you're breathing in a like humid climate. And I'll say, did they, were they having trouble breathing? And I'll have trouble breathing then.
Wow.
And they'll say yes. And then immediately it goes away. It's weird. It's like something takes over my body.
And see, that's why I was asking, because I mean, I wouldn't want to have
It's terrible.
I wouldn't want to have the ability to just walk up to somebody and say, hey, is your dad dead? Because I'm getting a message. I mean, you could freak people out.
Well, that happened. I've only had that happen one time, and it was recently, and it was someone we know, and their dad had passed away, who we loved so much. He ran a restaurant. He owned the restaurant. His son was cooking, and we were there for dinner. And we love the girl who works there. She's like helping run the place. And this was not too long ago that he passed away. And I was sitting at the bar with my husband, and I had my reading glasses on. So I was kind of like scrolling through my phone, and I had my head kind of down, but I was like looking up at the TV, and all of a sudden I saw a flash of white out of the left side of my eye. And my eyes filled up, and the bartender girl, I don't want to mention her name because I have a feeling she's going to listen to this. And I don't want to give out names.
No, but, absolutely. No.
She said, are you okay? And I said, listen, I don't want to freak you out right now. And she's good with this stuff. Like, she's really into it. But I said, I don't want to freak you out. And I looked at my husband, and I kind of like tilted my head, and he goes, go ahead. I said, he's here. And she goes, I know he's here. I've seen him here. Like, I think I've seen him here. And I said, he's standing over. I didn't even want to look. I said, I see him standing over there in front of the French doors in a white polo shirt with his arms crossed, which is how he stood all the time. I said, his legs are kind of shoulder width apart. And he kind of like waved like this. And she goes, yeah. And now her eyes are starting to fill up, and so are my husband's. And I said, he just told me that he's very proud of, and he named his son. And she starts to cry. No, I'm crying too. And I said, I don't know if he'd want to take this message. And she said, I don't know. And I said, I know it's soon after. I mean, it's only been like a month or something. And I said, but I think he'd want to hear that. And I know he wants him to know that he's proud of him. And she said, well, I don't know. What do you want to do? And I said, I know that this is hard. I mean, I do this all the time, but, some people aren't open. I know a lot of people don't get visits because either the spirit's not ready to give the message or the person's not ready to hear the message. And she goes, okay. She goes, well, do you want me to tell him? And I go, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to put you in that predicament. Maybe I should tell him. Maybe, I'd rather get yelled at before you. And she said, well, why don't I go with you? And my husband goes, maybe you shouldn't tell him. Because my husband's mom wasn't ready for a message from her husband. And it's been years. She didn't want to hear anything. So I said, I'm going to go. I think he really needs to hear this message. I don't care if I get yelled at. He has to hear it. So we both went into the kitchen, and he turned around and he goes, hey. I said, hey. So it was so hard for me to get this out of my mouth. I kept saying, and I said, so I'm really sorry about your dad. And now I'm crying. And now he looks really uncomfortable, and he keeps moving. He's cooking. I said, listen, I have something to tell you. And now he looks really uncomfortable. And I said, so he's here standing in front of the doors over there, and he starts to walk backwards away from me. And I said, look, I know that this is hard to hear, but, and he goes, listen. And I said, let me just finish. I said, he wanted you to know that he's really proud of you. And he goes, I think you need to leave and get out of my kitchen. And I said, listen, I think you needed to hear this. I know it's hard. I'm going to leave, but he loves you and he was here for a reason. And I'm here at the same time for a reason. I think you needed to hear it. I'll leave. I just want you to digest that at your own pace. I'm walking out. And he goes, okay, yeah, just go. And now this girl and I are in tears walking out. And I just said to her, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, because, we all know each other. We all kind of like grew up together. I think that this was terrible. Like, this went badly, but I had to do it. And I think that he would have wanted him to know. It's sometimes harder for me than it is for them.
Wow, that's an incredible story.
It's hard. It's really hard.
Yes, and it's to be able to do that and convey that to convey that message. Because think about it. We all are looking. Most of us, anyway, are like, I would love to know if my dad's like, "Oh, I'm proud of you, son." You know what I mean? But
we all want to hear that from somebody.
Yes. So,
and a lot of us get the opposite.
Yes. And that's why your message to him, incredible. How did he take the message after, he got a chance to absorb it? And
I don't know. I haven't seen him since. It was only about maybe 2 weeks ago or something. I should probably ask her. I need to text her anyway, but the look on his face was pure shock. I think he knew that he's been there, but he hasn't talked to him. But I think that a lot of people don't know how to take the message. They don't know how to listen for the message. They don't, like, people get pennies and dimes and nickels. And the funny thing is, those things are looked over. And a penny means the beginning of something. A nickel is the middle of something, and the dime is the end of something. So if anybody is listening to this, and I know that this isn't live, but if somebody gets any of those things thrown at them, they see them, whatever, take that as a message and really let it sink in. Because if you're having a bad day and you get one of those things, just know that someone who loves you is sending you these messages. And it shows that you're either at the beginning, the middle, or the end of something rough. And they're trying to help you through that. If there is a date on it, sometimes the date can help, because it lets you know that it's the birth of your child's year, or, the year you graduated, or your date of birth year, or their date of birth year, or your wedding year, something that means a significant thing to you. And I think not enough people are looking because they're not paying attention, but these things happen and they make a world of difference to those who really need it.
That's incredible. That is fascinating to me, because, we've all, I believe, found pennies and things, you know what I mean? Especially places where we're not really expecting them to be. So I'm
blown by these things, honestly, because my father never got a sign from my mother, except for at the very beginning. She doesn't come to him in dreams, whatever. I was in Mexico. I was having a very rough time in my marriage, very rough. It was our anniversary night, and I couldn't even stomach to be around him anymore. And my heart was racing. It was our last night there. And you know how when you go on vacation, especially out of the country, you dump all your change out of everything because you're not going to use it. Like, I was walking back to our room, and there was the big happy anniversary banner in, Spanish on the door. And I was like, it made me sick to look at. There were 3 weddings at the resort. There was a full moon that night. Everyone was partying, and I was nauseous. I didn't want to go back to the room with him. I had a major emergency while I was down there. My feet blew up. They hurt so bad. There were blisters all over them. Part of my, diagnoses. I had a long dress on. I was wearing these flip-flops, and I had to be very careful with my feet. So I pulled my dress up to my knees so I could watch my feet. I was walking across the room. I took my sandals off. I turned around and I started to walk back, and there was a penny on the floor. We didn't take pennies. We dumped out everything that we had before we left. The penny wasn't there when I carefully walked across the floor. And I'm telling you, I was asking my mother out under the full moon to give me a sign of what I should do. I picked up the penny. I looked at the date. I burst into tears and ran to the bathroom. It was our wedding year.
Oh, wow.
And it was a penny because it was going to be the start of a new thing for me. I immediately filed for divorce when we got back. And it was the worst thing I had ever been through in my life. It was horrible, horrible. He was super abusive, terrible to me. I could not wait to get it over with. He made it awful, awful. And for anyone out there who's going through something like that, if you ever need to talk to anyone, I am here and I will help you through it. It's awful.
Wow. Now,
But
do these pennies have a different, like any coin that you find, if you find it on heads or tails?
I know that they say that if it's heads up, it's good luck. I don't know. I've never really focused on anything like that. But my sister used to have pennies thrown at her out of her freezer and her dryer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And just think that there's a significant meaning to that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Pennies from heaven.
Yes. Wow. That's fascinating. I never really thought about, pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters. I'm going to have to research on that now. That's going to be a mind blower for me.
A lot of crazy things like that. And I know that people say cardinals, and cardinals, yes, they do mean something, but I've noticed that cardinals, I think, are more male. And blue jays seem to be more female. My Nana had 4 sisters, and my Nana's sister was my godmother. And they lived in the same house, but they had like separate floors. And my godmother, her husband was my godfather, and he was the dearest person to me. He was amazing. He was like a grandfather to me. He was one of my favorite people. And it's weird because when I first got really sick and when my senses blew wide open, I had weird stuff happening all the time. I would open my pantry door, and I had swing band music coming out of it one day. I would close the doors and be like, I don't need a snack that bad. I'm just going to close the doors. One day it would be marching band music. It would change constantly. I had dead people walking around my house just constantly. There would be mobsters, people with like long Victorian gowns turning the corner. I had a decapitated kid sitting on my couch one night. That was a message for my son. But it was like after we got back from Mexico, so we were swimming around in a lot of salt water, and my son has abilities as well. So I think the 2 of us were beacons because we were wide open. So there was a lot of weird stuff going on. But I would make myself lunch, and I made myself go into my kitchen and sit at the table and kind of write manifestations, because I was trying to, leave my bedroom and sit in a different place all the time. So I would sit at the kitchen table and I would face outside and look out at, it was springtime. So I was looking out. There would be 5 bluebirds, huge, and then 1 cardinal every single day. And it was like my Nana and her sisters would be there, and my Uncle Gene would be there. And it would bring me so much joy that maybe it wasn't that, but that's what it seemed like. And it was every single day, these 5 bluebirds and then this one red bird. And it was so interesting. And if they weren't there, one bluebird, and that would be my mom. And I would talk to them, and they would be very interested in what I was saying. And I don't care if they, thought I was crazy. They were very interested in everything I had to talk to them about all the time. It was like very peaceful. And then I started to notice that I would notice the clock would be at 7:21, which is my birthday. And it kept coming into my head that they were telling me that this was my special number and that they loved me, and they were there 7:21 in the morning, 7:21 at night, all the time. And I was talking to someone else, and this person said to me, and it was around the time that I started to notice this, I keep seeing my birthday on the clock. And I said, I truly believe that if you're seeing your birthday, it's special for you, and it's your loved ones telling you that they love you. And I decided to look up her number, and I told her what it meant, because like the number thing was really interesting to me, because when I first started getting sick, I would see 222, 333, 444. And when I kept seeing 444 is when my mom showed up and was sitting on my bed. So I thought, what the hell? I'm going to look up 721 and see what it means. And I was blown away, because when I looked up 721, it's actually the universal number for I love you.
Wow.
Yeah. So all this was happening at the same time with these birds, and they were just there all the time. And they're still there.
And it really makes you think about how the universe does its thing.
Just the way it works.
Yes. Because I mean, that's not a random thing. That actually is for a reason.
Yeah, synchronicities, they come up all the time. Or if you hear a word and that word is not something that's used a lot, and then you hear it in a movie, and then you talk on the phone to your friend and they say that word, and then that word is connected to something else, and then you hear that somewhere, or you read it in a magazine. It's really strange.
Yes. It's like pictures. You see different pictures when you're out and about, and you're like, wait a minute. I think I'm getting some kind of a reading with numbers and things. It's just weird how it works out.
It is.
And if you're paying, if you're paying attention to it, it's even more an awakening.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, Maureen, tell us, what do you have? What's your plans for the future, moving forward? What do you hope to accomplish? Your endeavors, things like that.
Well, I think I'm going to start with Escape from the Paranormal, and we're starting to film that coming up within like the next month. And we're going to do 2 episodes. We're going to take a break for Christmas. Then my husband and Alfie are going to film a show called No Man's Land, which is the US version of Escape UK. They are working together to rescue a celebrity from the special forces team, which should be really interesting. I'm going to love to watch the 2 of them together. I think it's either going to be hilarious or really, or really interesting. They get along well too. Then we're going to go back and continue to film. We're going to do 8 places in the US and 8 places in the UK. And we may even throw some other countries in there as well. So that you'll have to stay tuned for. But in the meantime, I love hanging out with my kids and my grandchildren. And I don't know. I really would like to move south and be in the warm weather, because this cold air is killing me. But I don't know. I like to take it as it comes, and I like to have fun while I'm doing everything. If there's no fun involved in what I'm doing, I just don't want to be part of it. I like to have fun. I like to laugh. I like to be with my family and my friends, and I like to help other people in the paranormal world with whatever they're doing, and I like to take part in that. I like to do my podcast with Anthony, and I still like to investigate, so I'm definitely going to be doing that. But if anybody has anything that they'd like me to take part in, I would love to help you out. And I don't know, there's lots to do, so stay tuned.
And you like to stay warm, obviously.
Oh yeah. I could be in like Mexico or Florida or someplace like that.
Yes, I sometimes am like, I want to move back to Florida. I lived there for, I don't know, 20 years. And I'm like, I should go back. And then I'm like, no, I don't want to be around all the. It was so busy. I lived Tampa, Clearwater area, so it was so busy.
Oh, that's beautiful there.
And I was like, man, every time I got to get on US 19, I'm like, oh, the people are everywhere.
We love Key West. Key West is so nice, and the beaches are beautiful, and it's just so expensive there, Todd. It's a lot.
Yes, I was just going to say it's beautiful in the Keys, but it is definitely expensive. It's like that now pretty much everywhere now. It's starting to get, any place close to the beach is starting to get really expensive.
Yeah, I don't mind being a little bit far away from the beach if you can make the drive, but I just need more warmth for my bones.
Yes. I start to creak and crack every now and again, and I'm like, man, this got to be the weather.
Yeah, I do that as soon as I wake up until the time I go to bed, but the warmer it gets, it's not as bad.
Right. Well, Maureen, how can people get a hold of you? How can they find you? Tell us all that good stuff.
Oh, let's see. I'm all over social media. So you can find me under Maureen Grudzinski on my personal page. You can look me up under A Lil Witchy on Facebook. I'm on A Lil Witchy pretty much anywhere. TikTok, I think it's A Lil Witchy 5. There might be some like underscores or something, but you can pretty much Google me under anything. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram.
Do you have a website for your mediumship, your psychic and medium ability?
I do. It's www.alilwitchy.com. And there is a little area at the top left-hand corner where there is a drop down. And my weddings are actually under something there. That's actually now called Magikal Matrimonials by A Lil Witchy.
Nice. Fantastic. Well, I hope people learn more about you and the things that you are going to be getting into in the future, especially with your show coming up. I'm excited. I can't wait to see this someday. And I thank you so much for being a part of my show tonight. I'm very happy, and it really was great talking to you.
Thank you. It was wonderful talking to you as well. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, Maureen, you take care of yourself. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Todd. Have a great night.
You as well. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for tuning in with us tonight, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content from Paranormal Podcast is made available. If you believe you have something paranormal happening in your home or business, or you believe you may have witnessed a UFO or UAP, please send us your story, your photos, videos, questions, suggestions, and your comments to paranormallypodcast@gmail.com. You can also visit us at www.paranormallypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. Hey, thanks again for watching and listening, and I hope that you tune in for next week's episode of Paranomaly. Hey, a word of caution. Paranormal Podcast and its affiliates or hosts do not verify or check the validity of any person, team, or its members. Paranormal Podcast highly advises that you proceed with caution when contacting any person or team before allowing them and having them into your home or business. A legit paranormal research and investigation team will never charge you a fee to investigate your home or business. They do, however, accept donations to help further the research and investigations if you so choose to do so. All right, thanks everybody.